We're here together with another beautiful day of sobriety. How are you doing today? Are you sober? Are you trying to get sober? Either way, I'm going to help you do that. So, this is the marble meeting number 6. I think it's 6 days in a row. I might have missed one somewhere in there, but we're going to keep them going. This is a daily meeting for addicts to watch and get inspired to be sober and to do it by learning Stoic philosophy. So, I wanted to talk a little bit about what Stoicism is and the main philosophers that inspired this program. The philosophy of Stoicism was developed over 2,000 years ago, and it was developed in Greece, but it was such a big hit back then because people got so much out of it, as they will today in our modern era, that it ended up moving over to Rome, to the Italy area. And the Romans generally absorbed the Greek culture into their culture because they, prior to them owning the areas of Greece, Greece itself was an empire. And Alexander the Great, who was actually a Macedonian, he helped develop Greece as a giant empire. And so at one point, Greece was like the be all end all head honcho of the world, at least of the Western world. And later, that was taken over by Rome, which eventually took over all the areas around the Mediterranean. But they always still respected Greece and its culture. And so they absorbed everything from Greece, and that included Stoic philosophy. They really respected that. Apparently, later, they sort of stopped really respecting the Greek people because they were sort of, the area of Greece was a little bit of, people there were kind of being bums. And eventually the Romans, they were the ones that were pushing civilization forward, and the Greeks were kind of holding it back. So they respected the culture, but they were kind of like, what are you guys doing over there? But anyway, sometimes I like putting a little history into these videos just because I love history. So the Romans and the Greeks, they were the Stoics. And it started in Greece. And the first philosopher that began, I believe, a school of Stoicism was Zeno. And he used to say that you can only trust a good man with a secret. And you can never trust a drunk with a secret. Therefore, good men don't drink. And it was simple logic. The Stoics always used simple logic, and simple things in life are the most beautiful and make the most sense. Just like in science, E equals mc squared is a beautiful equation because of its simplicity. And so the philosophers had a lot of simple standards in life, which I think we sort of forgot in our day and age. And today we like to overcomplicate everything, but the philosophers kept things simple. So from the beginning, one of the first philosophers in Stoicism said, don't drink. You can't trust a man who's drinking. And why can you not trust someone who's drinking? Because they have no control over their reasoning and over their thoughts. And you can't have control over your reasoning if you're either under the influence of drugs, which includes alcohol, because your brain is just not being itself. All the neurotransmitters are being activated or deactivated, and it's like a computer that's got a virus in it. It doesn't function right. Or even if you're sober, meaning that you aren't currently under the influence, but you're still an addict, then you're still being pulled by your addictions, because the addiction itself affects your thoughts. It always whispers to you and wants you to pull back to whatever brings you back towards itself. And it might not be at the very moment. Maybe when you're hungover, you're like, oh my God, if I think about alcohol, I'm going to puke. But later that evening, or the next day when your friend asks you to come over, that's when the addiction will peep its ugly head out again. And it'll pull you back. It's like the angel on one side and the devil on the other side, except you don't even have an angel. Your angel is basically your own reasoning telling yourself, I got to get away from this stuff. It keeps pulling me back. But that little devil on the side, it's always going to whisper back, yeah, let's go get messed up again. Let's go use again. It's been long enough now. I think it's okay if we have another one. You did a good job. You were sober for a day or two. Now it's okay to have another one. That little devil is the addiction. The addiction itself is the devil. And sometimes I feel like if Satan does exist, one of the ways he exists and gets into us is through addictions. God created virtues. Satan would have created vices and addictions. So we always have to push away from our addictions, whatever they may be. It doesn't even have to be drugs and alcohol. It can be the addiction of bad habits, the addiction of having a donut every morning. I know it's like the greatest thing, and who doesn't want to have a donut? And let's not take everything away, but let's face it, habits can be addicting too. We got to push away from that stuff. It's good to push towards discomforts, pushing towards independence from desire of things that are external to us. By the way, today drops a great video, and it's a long form video. One of my, it's not a short. It's one of the lectures. It's a podcast video. So definitely check it out. These are the ones that have the fancy thumbnails. I've been watching a lot of videos about how to get more traction on YouTube, and a lot of it's about the thumbnails and making them look good. And honestly, I kind of feel bad following these instructions, because these YouTube gurus are like constantly telling you to make the thumbnails like clickbait. And I hate that. Or they're saying to add hooks to the beginning of the videos, and I'm supposed to add a hook, but it's just not me. I don't want to fake things. I'm here to just provide you encouragement to stay sober. And I don't want to be that guy that's making things based on how do I fish, catch a fish, meaning catch a viewer. If I was, I would probably be making videos, like this. The 3 things that Stoics said to save your life. 5 things to help you right now. It's just so clickbaity. It's not my style. So anyway, when you see the nice thumbnails, I'm not gonna make them like as clickbaity as all the other people on YouTube, but I put a little effort into them, and I make them a little clickbaity. This next one's like break your addiction, and there's a chain and it's broken with Stoic philosophy. But so it's a little clickbaity, you know. I gotta survive. I can't make it too boring. But I don't like doing that. I'd rather honestly have the thumbnails just be like a lecture thumbnail where it says like exactly what we're talking about. But anyway, addicts have short attention spans, especially when they're in the middle of an addiction. All they want to do is flip through the channels, you know, scroll on YouTube, and whatever catches their attention like a drug, they'll click on. That makes me think I should probably make my YouTube thumbnails have pictures of drugs on them. That'll catch their attention. Low-hanging fruit. But anyway, I'm just thinking to myself. So, Zeno started philosophy. I ramble, but I end up weaving back to where, you know, the main topics. Now, the next Stoic I want to talk about, one of the first three that helped create this marble program, is Seneca. And Seneca was an incredible person. He wrote letters. He wasn't like an educational Stoic the way Zeno was, or Epictetus, who we'll talk about later. Seneca was a great man. He was so smart that the emperor, who was a little boy at the time, and the empire was being run by this little boy's mother, the emperor being Nero, who was like, he's considered one of the most evil persons in history and one of the worst emperors of all time. His mother, Nero's mother, hired Seneca to train Nero because Nero was such a little punk that she needed someone to train him. Now, that was a very difficult task because this Nero kid, he would just kill anybody he didn't like. He probably found joy in murdering people. So Seneca, he had to tread very lightly. It was like, you know, walking on ice every time he would tell this emperor anything that, you know, that he felt. But he did his best, and Seneca was a rich person. And the Stoics and Stoicism generally believes that material possessions do not matter. So Seneca, he frequently would talk about that, how possessions don't matter, money doesn't matter, and people would say he was a hypocrite because he was so rich. And the thing, we'll get into that later, but Seneca was extremely smart, and he wasn't a teacher. He would write in letters to people. So what we have handed down from this man, and I can't believe we have this stuff handed down, but we have his letters saved because he would write a lot, because back then there was no internet. You just had to write letters and post them. And because that's how you had to communicate with old friends, he would write long letters about topics that were very deep, and these were to loved ones. So he put a lot of effort and love into these letters, and we've learned Stoic philosophy from this guy through his letters. And he was kind of like a more practical Stoic. He would talk about emotional control and how to be a good person and virtues and things like that. And he was around the time of, like, I believe 100 BC or so. So he's the first one of the main three. Now, the second Stoic that the Marble program is based on, his name is Epictetus. Now, I would prefer to pronounce his name Epictetus because that just flows off the tongue so much easier. And frankly, I don't like any word with the word teat in it. It's just a little weird and awkward for me, but maybe that's just my weirdness and immaturity, perhaps. But anyway, Epictetus, uh, or Epictetus, I might actually start changing his name over to Epictetus because it just sounds so much smoother. But anyway, Epictetus, he was a slave, and this guy lived in what is modern day Turkey today, but at that time it was considered Greek. And he was a slave. He was shackled by his leg to the wall or whatever, and because of that, he walked with a limp later in life. But he managed to be set free and by his master, because back then slavery was also very common throughout Africa and Middle East and Europe. Slavery's always been around. And so Epictetus was a slave, but he was set free. And he ended up learning so much from the trials and tribulations of being a slave that he developed a school for Stoicism, for Stoic philosophy. Now, Epictetus, he was a lecturer. This guy, he lectured every day. He had a school of Stoicism. So he was the most theoretical and abstract of the Stoics. He would talk a lot about reasoned choice, which is the initial part of the Marble program, which all the videos so far have been focused on. And this idea that we have a choice, that we can make choices, but we can only make correct choices if we're reasoning correctly. And that there's things that are internal to us, like our desires and our aversions, our opinions and judgments. And there are things that are external to us, like the things we possess and other people, and even our body is external to us. Because for him, sometimes we forget that the body is external to us. We think that the body is part of who we are. It's not who we are. You could chop your arm off right now. And when it's chopped off, is that arm that's rolling around somewhere, is that part of you? No, it's just an inanimate object. Just because it's connected to you doesn't make it any different. You have control over it with your mind because the nerves are all attached and the muscles are all attached to it and everything's in order, but it's still something that's external to your mind. Because when we say external to you, we really mean external to your mind. Even your brain, in a way, is external to you. Now, when parts of it shut off, parts of your mind, unfortunately, start to malfunction. But in some ways, even your brain is external to you. It's your mind, it's your soul that's what's considered to be internal. That is you. It's your soul. So anyway, Epictetus talked a lot about this stuff that were more abstract and very theoretical, very rudimentary, kind of hard to comprehend stuff. And I do my best to explain it in my videos. And it's very important stuff to understand. If you want to really conquer the world, then you need to understand this stuff, because you will be able to conquer yourself first. And that's what you need to do in order to conquer the world. I don't literally mean conquering the world, by the way. I mean like being so successful you're conquering life. Your life. The third philosopher that this program is based on is Marcus Aurelius. And Marcus Aurelius studied Epictetus's lectures. He had a copy of these lectures, which were written down by hand by one of Epictetus's students. So that's Epictetus didn't write anything. The only reason we have Epictetus's knowledge is because one of his students, and I can't remember his name offhand, wrote down everything by hand that he was hearing in these lectures. And those notes were passed down to Marcus Aurelius, who was the adopted son of um, another emperor of Rome. So his stepfather was the emperor, and he studied philosophy through the notes of Epictetus, and he loved those notes because those notes taught him everything he needed to know about life and what it meant to be a man and what it meant to be able to control yourself and understand reality accurately. And Marcus Aurelius ended up becoming the emperor himself. And he never wanted to be the emperor. He dreamed of just being a philosopher, like his hero Epictetus. And instead, he was made the emperor because through his studying of philosophy, he became such a good person and so well composed and well educated that everybody was like, you gotta be the emperor. We can't have your brother be the emperor. You gotta be the emperor. You were meant for this role. We believe in you. And he was like, no, I'm not gonna be the emperor. I don't want to be the emperor. My brother needs to be the emperor. He's the true blood heir to the emperor. And they were like, no, you should be the emperor. And he's like, all right, fine, we'll split it. So he split the emperorship, and later his brother died, and he became the emperor, which probably most people would dream of having, and to him it was like a curse. And so he knew that the difficulty of being an emperor, one of them included the fact that it boosts your ego extremely high, because everywhere he went, people were treating him like he was some kind of god figure, like literally a god. People were like kissing his feet everywhere, and he's like, I'm not a god. I'm just Marcus Aurelius. I'm just the son of the emperor. I didn't even want to do this. I'm just a man. And then he hired a slave to follow him around and remind him every time people were praising him. The slave would whisper into Marcus's ear, "You're just a man. You're just a man." And so I think about that a lot, when my ego comes into me and I start thinking highly of myself, I remind myself that I'm just a man. A very, very great man. One of the greatest men in the world. But I'm just a man. Sorry, I had a little narc flare there. I don't mean narcotics either. I mean narcissism. But anyway, Marcus Aurelius would have to be reminded all the time that he's just a man. And so, in order to help himself stay sober from this ego trip that could constantly happen to any emperor, he took notes to himself to remind himself his philosophy, his stoicism, and his stoic beliefs. And he would apply them to his real life. And he was the most practical in some ways. Maybe not the most practical, because I think I said that about Seneca, but he really was the most human. He brought things to light from a personal level the most of all the Stoics, where he would talk a lot about the struggles he would have and apply Stoicism to his life and remind himself of the things that he learned, that he was educated on from an early age. And that's how he learned Stoicism, or how he practiced Stoicism. And hold on. What's up, bro?
What's good, bro?
How are you?
I'm alright.
You having a good day?
I'm trying to.
Good.
Trying to.
All right, well, God bless.
God bless you.
All right. So that's what Marcus Aurelius would do. And he was just such a great person, and he wrote in his notes, he wrote his notes out, and they were saved forever. And those notes to this day are called meditations, not because it has anything to do with meditating, but because he would meditate. It was like his own personal meditations about life in the world. And those meditations, I ended up reading them from an earlier time in my life because I was intrigued by General Mathis, who was one of the greatest generals of the modern era. He's still alive. And I thought, I was like researching this guy. I wanted to know how he became who he was because I saw an interview of him and I was just thinking to myself how composed this man was, how stoic he was. And I wanted to learn about him. And what I read about him on Wikipedia, General Mathis, is that I think it's Mathis. It might be Mattis. But I learned that when he was in not boot camp, but like military academy or something like that, he would carry around Marcus Aurelius's meditations with him wherever he would go. You could check this out on Wikipedia. It's written there. And he was considered to be the most, like, not composed, but refined person that his teacher had ever seen. And I thought to myself, well, what is this book he's carrying around? And that's what enlightened me to Marcus Aurelius's Meditations. And I started reading it, and that was the start of my true Stoic, my true Stoic education was reading Meditations. And to this day, Meditations lies above my desk in my office place so that I can pick it up at any time and read it. And I've read it through probably like 6, 7, 8, 9 times. I've lost count how many times I've read it through. But if you haven't read it, I highly recommend that you read it. And it's difficult reading, but it will help you start to develop a sense of Stoicism from an emperor's own words. And what you will realize is that Marcus Aurelius, while he was the most powerful person in history, at least at that time, he was the most powerful person, he struggled with the same things we struggle with. Grief, getting out of bed, ego, difficult people, judging others, like all these random things that we struggle with that you can be a homeless person and have issues with. He had those same issues because we all share the same thing. In the end, we're all just a epigraph on a tombstone or ashes in the wind. That's all we are in the end. So those are the 3 philosophers that inspired the Marble program. And I wanted to talk to you a little bit about them because we're going to be talking about them in the future on videos and not just Marble meetings like this one. I should have probably talked more about addiction today, but it's important to know where where this writing comes from, where this stuff comes from, because we can apply what these 3 Stoics were saying to addiction in so many ways. How people judge you, that can cause you triggering. Because as addicts, we get judged seriously. I know because I was on the front page of the newspaper. And when you look me up online, the article comes up that I was a dumbass and I was smoking weed on YouTube, and it was high time that I got my license suspended. And they took the worst picture of me and put it in the article. And yeah, I deserved it, but now that chases me. Do I care about my reputation? No, I don't. Because I know that I'm being a good person now, and I'm sober now, and I've been sober. So I don't care if the whole world looks badly on me, because I know inside of myself that I'm a good person. And I know that the people that love me and who know me really, they know that about me too. And so I can sleep well at night. I have nothing to worry about. And I hope that you guys can be in the same position I'm in and get sober, stay sober, so that even when people talk badly about you, you don't get triggered. And that's what Stoicism is all about, applying this kind of Stoic logic to your life so that you have an easier time staying on the right path and not falling off through drugs and alcohol. That's it for me. I love you guys all. I love all of you. And have a great day. And remember, stay sober, my fellow Stoic philosophers.